I take you live to Montreal. That's where Prime Minister Trudeau is speaking. This is at the Liberal cabinet retreat taking place. We'll listen in.
Défis au niveau de l'économie internationale, et c'est pour ça qu'on est concentré sur le travail qu'on doit faire pour continuer à aider les gens. On a mis de l'avant plusieurs mesures au fil de la dernière année qui ont réellement aidé, que ce soit au niveau des coupures, des coûts des garderies à travers le pays, l'allocation canadienne aux enfants qui fait une grosse différence, de l'aide pour les aînés qui s'en vient avec les soins dentaires.
Help for seniors is coming with dental care for vulnerable seniors. We'll continue to invest in
challenging times right now. People are squeezed between the cost of groceries and rents and all the challenges they're facing. That's why we've continued to step up with concrete ways to support Canadians, whether it's the range of measures from bringing childcare fees down to investing in more money through the climate action incentive, through the the Canada Child Benefit, or the support we're bringing to families with greater dental care as it rolls out for seniors right now. We're there to support people through these tough times with real programs and real work that's delivering for them. We've announced in a couple of weeks we'll hold a national summit on auto theft to go at one of the challenges that's facing Canadians in far too many cities across the country. But we're also spending time this week leaning in on a number of big issues. We had a panel on the economy with a focus on how the middle class is doing and how we can make sure that people continue to see a strong and optimistic future for them and for their kids in this country, despite challenging geopolitical and global economic headwinds. That's why hearing from economists, from experts, from a range of folks to look at what really and what more our government can work on to deliver for people in complex and challenging times. We also were invited back members of a panel on housing to look at what we've been able to do over the past 6 months. Tim Richter and Mike Moffat and others were here. They were with us last summer when we launched our significant housing measures that we've been rolling out all fall, and this was an opportunity for us to hear directly from them on what more we can do to continue to tackle the housing challenge across the country. Au niveau du logement, on a pris des actions pour
housing. We
plus ambitieuses pour
selected the most ambitious options to counter the housing crisis for generations in Canada. We're very happy to welcome Mayor Marie Plante, not only in Montreal. We can also talk about the other big cities in the Canadian Federation and bigger municipalities, to see how the federal government can continue to be a good partner with all levels of government, particularly for the most vulnerable, against homelessness, and continue to invest in a future for our cities across our country where people can see an optimistic future.
We've also talked a lot about the American elections coming up. Canada-U.S. relations are fundamental for the prosperity and well-being of Canadians. We know this is an important election year for the U.S., so we'll be hearing shortly from a panel of experts on Canada-U.S. relations and making sure that we're ready for whatever Americans decide in this coming November. I have asked our Minister of Trade and our Minister of Industry, Mary Ng and François-Philippe Champagne, to lead the Team Canada approach, working with Ambassador Kirsten Hillman, who's here today for the panel, to pull together, as we did a number of years ago, a Team Canada approach, including businesses, entrepreneurs, organized labor, civil society groups, different orders of government, to make sure that we're ready to continue to benefit as Canadians from from a strong relationship with the United States. We know there's always challenges whenever there's an American election, but as we have before, we're going to be ready to deal with whatever gets tossed at us and make sure we're defending Canadians' interests and opportunities in this strong relationship. On va parler aujourd'hui.
Today we will talk about our relations with the U.S. and particularly what we should do to prepare for this November's elections in the U.S. And our Ambassador Kirsten Hillman has found a group of experts that will discuss the various challenges we might face. Today's announcement that we're creating a working group with Minister François-Philippe Champagne and Mary Ng, Ministers of Industry and International Commerce, to use the approach that we used several years ago to make sure that business, unions, experts, and various civilian society groups in Canada are well represented at all levels of the government to have a coherent approach to work properly with our American partners, regardless of their decision this fall.
We're in challenging times right now in the world, and that's why it's so important that we have a government that continues to roll up its sleeves and take responsible, serious, steady decisions as we're there to support Canadians now and to build a strong and prosperous future. We know the Conservative Party continues to offer only insults and attacks on one side and cuts to programs that Canadians rely on the other side. That's not what Canadians need. Canadians need a government with a plan, with the capacity and the ability to continue to deliver even in these complex, challenging times, and that's exactly what we're doing. 2024 is going to continue to be a challenging year, but we're also going to see a number of bright spots as we come through the challenges of the past few years, and Canada positions itself with all the advantages we have to lead the way on many, many different fronts at a time where the world is facing real issues and difficulties as well. One thing that we always remember is that Canada is the best country in the world, and it's up to us to work hard to make it even better. And that's exactly what we're gathered here in my hometown to do. Merci beaucoup tout le monde.
Thank you, Prime Minister. We'll now begin the question period. One question each. First one goes to Louis Blouin.
Bonjour, Louis Blouin de Radio-Canada. Monsieur Trudeau, à vos yeux, quel est le plus
in your eyes, what is the biggest risk if Donald Trump returns to the White House? What's the biggest risk for Canada? I think Canada enjoys enormously a relationship with the U.S., regardless of their administration over the years, to know that the American interest is to have a good integration with the Canadian economy. Mr. Trump represents uncertainty. We don't know exactly what he'll bring, but as we saw him 7 years ago now, we were able to manage Mr. Trump by defending Canadian interests and that we can enjoy economic growth on both sides of the border. It continues to be our approach, particularly because our economies are even more integrated than they were 7 years ago.
I think one of the really important things for any Canadian government is to continue to work constructively with whatever American administration is in place. There's no question that we made it through the challenges represented by the Trump administration 7 years ago for 4 years, where we put forward the fact that Canada and the U.S. do best when we do it together, when we're well integrated, when we recognize the prosperity that's created on both sides of the border. That's going to continue to be our approach. Obviously, Mr. Trump represents a certain amount of unpredictability, but we will make sure we're pulling together and preparing for whatever eventualities.
Mia Rabson from the Canadian Press. Just wondering if yesterday's announcement on temporary student visas is a part of a bigger rethink on our immigration policies. Will there be caps on other temporary visas? Are we going to tie immigration to housing?
One of the things that Canadians understand is that immigration remains an incredible strength and force for Canada and for the Canadian economy. Being able to welcome in people from around the world, particularly at this time of labor shortages, is good for our country and good for the future that we're building together. But we need to make sure that the system is working in the rigorous ways that it always has. That's what gives Canadians confidence about it. Over the past few years, we've seen a massive increase in the number of international students, and that's why we are steadying the numbers for the next 2 years so that we can make sure that international students can fully benefit from their time here in Canada, and that our system is able to manage and handle them in the right ways. This is part of what a responsible government must do to ensure immigration continues to function smoothly and Canadians continue to support it.
Immigration is a great strength for Canada, particularly in these times of labor shortage, where we have people from all over the world to contribute to our economic growth and well-being as citizens. Over the past years, we saw a sharp rise in the numbers of international students. So now we are trying to stabilize them for the next 2 years to allow the system to catch up a bit on these opportunities and to establish a pathway to success for the international students who come here, to make sure that our communities can welcome them and that they continue to for the people to benefit and grow.
Logic. In 2022, your budget made a great focus on productivity, saying it was really important that we be more productive if we want our kids to live better than we do. Now, 2 years later, productivity is down, GDP per capita is down, population is growing faster than employment. Statistics Canada is saying standard of living is dropping. And the economist panel you brought in actually said to us that they told your cabinet, focusing on that stuff is a mistake. That's icing on the cake. We should be thinking about other things. Has your thinking on this issue changed? And if so, or if not, how has your cabinet discussed it?
Every prime minister for the past 30 years has been challenged with the issue of productivity, and we, like all others, continue to work on making sure that the Canadian economy is delivering the best possible jobs and the best possible growth for everyone. That's why we've put forward a strong and ambitious industrial strategy that's focused on preparing for the net zero world we're getting into. As we see investments by companies like Northvolt or Volkswagen or Stellantis or E1 Moly or Dow Chemicals in Alberta, we're seeing the world taking an interest in what Canada's doing and what they can do in Canada. That's why last year, in the first half of last year, Canada was number 3 in the world for foreign direct investment, after the US and Brazil, I believe. The fact is, what we're doing here in Canada to build strong, prosperous jobs and careers for the future is making a difference. And right now, even as Canadians are squeezed by cost of living pressures, by rents, by geopolitical pressures, we're building the basis of a strong country for decades to come, with good jobs, with opportunities, and with solutions that the world's going to need. Part of that is going to be increasing our productivity in smart and thoughtful ways, but it all goes together in the vision we're building for a better future for Canadians.
Next question.
Raymond Filion de TVA, bonjour. En quoi êtes-vous la meilleure personne pour
How are you the best person to manage Donald Trump's return to the White House? All Canadians will vote. Why would it be you to be the best person to face him up? We'll know in November who will be the president, and our election will be in 2 years. But I want to remind people that among the challenges that we faced during Mr. Trump's first presidency, whether his attacks on our quota and our support for farmers across Canada, for attacks on steel workers, aluminum workers, and to rip up the free trade agreement with the U.S. and Mexico. We were able to hold strong We were able to renegotiate NAFTA so it's better for Canadians, protect our culture, our quota, and our long-term growth in the automobile sector that we are now transforming to or passing to electric. We were able to manage difficult situations while remaining anchored in economic growth in both our countries. For sure, there is no American president who is easy for a Canadian Prime Minister. It's always a complex relationship where the American interests take up a lot of place in the discussions. But now, with our relations with 3 different presidents, I was able to show that we have the ability to agree and defend Canadian interests and values while growing the economy for.
Du journal Le Devoir. Monsieur Trudeau, lors de la dernière retraite de votre cabinet l'été dernier, vous disiez que le logement et le coût de la vie étaient la priorité numéro 1. Vous avez fait des annonces en logement depuis, et là vous terminez une autre retraite qui a porté sur ces mêmes enjeux. Mais malgré tout, les taux hypothécaires actuels sont inabordables pour plusieurs Canadiens. Les mises en chantier ont reculé dans plusieurs grandes villes et le nombre de demandeurs d'asile a explosé. Donc, concrètement, comment comptez-vous changer votre stratégie si vous espérez obtenir des résultats différents?
Au contraire, on
continue has grown. So, what do you say you're going to do differently? Well, over the past 6 months, since that retreat, there have been investments and announcements, massive announcements across the country to create more housing over the coming years. We were there to help Canadians with dental care and childcare expenses, and we continue to work on growth, make sure there are good jobs, not only for the years to come, but for decades to come. This is how we can grow a strong economy. I realize there's a lot of hard work ahead of us, and that's what we're doing. So this cabinet retreat was the opportunity to continue to work seriously and responsibly to deliver to Canadians during these difficult moments.
Prime Minister Justin Freelance, picking up on that question, since you came into office, you pledged to build an extraordinary amount of new social housing, public housing. You promised to close the infrastructure gap. But over the years, billions of dollars was left unspent, funding was lapsed, the number of homes you actually built is relatively small compared to the need. Did you have a delivery problem? And if so, how do you fix that? Do you still have that problem today? What measures are you taking to fix that?
Well, we put in place a national housing strategy in 2017 that delivered millions for millions of Canadians as we move forward, moved forward into difficult years. Following the pandemic, the housing challenges really exploded across this country, and we needed to do even more, which is why we stepped up with the $4 billion Housing Accelerator Fund. And that recognizes that the federal government, while it has a role to play in housing, it's not the only one. Municipalities specifically are key to unlocking greater housing starts across the country. And that's why the deals we're signing around the accelerator with specific cities to cut red tape, to increase densification, to change the zoning laws, to permit 4 units as of right and 4 stories as of right in cities right across this country, to unlock an accelerated process of building more houses even faster in the coming years is what we've been focused on. And we're going to continue as we've done it. There's no moment to stop. We're continuing to invest in working in even better partnership with municipalities and provinces across the country and unlocking infrastructure investments, including in provinces that have been underinvesting or loath to invest in infrastructure or in housing. We're continuing to look at ways to either go around the provinces and work with the municipalities or bring the provinces on board to do even more. This is a time where orders of government need to continue to work together, and that's exactly what we've demonstrated across party lines. An ability to deliver for Canadians is the only way we're going to be moving forward.
Next
Good morning,
question.
Marika Walsh with the Globe and Mail. You just laid out the tough economic times that Canadians are facing. You say you're seized with the issue. Did you consider that backdrop when you decided to take an $80,000 free vacation?
As many Canadians did, I stayed with friends over the holidays.
Many Canadians don't have access to a $90,000 free vacation. So can you just explain a bit more the thinking as to why you take these vacations and how you think Canadians receive them? Like many Canadians did, I stayed with family friends over the holidays.
Next question.
Alex Ballingall, Toronto Star. The Business Council of Canada said in a letter to you last week that the fiscal objective of capping deficits at 1% that you introduced in the fiscal update is not credible because of the huge increases in spending under your government. And they said that it would require $12 billion in cuts per year to hit that goal. How serious are you about hitting that goal, and are you willing to make cuts like that or alternatively raise taxes in order to meet it?
I continue to listen to business leaders and economists and experts who have all sorts of different perspectives on what the Canadian economy needs and what Canadians need. And I understand the business community very much wants to continue to be able to be profitable and growing, and that's something we all want for the business community. But my priority as Prime Minister and our priority as a government is to make sure that Canadians are supported. The Canadians can see themselves in good jobs into the future. The Canadians get the supports they need now to make it through these tough times. And we saw Conservatives voting against dental care for vulnerable Canadians, whether it's for kids whose family couldn't afford it, that we've actually delivered dental care for over the past year, or the millions of seniors that are going to benefit from dental care in the coming year. We made investments in childcare that the business community was iffy on. Many recognize that it's not just a social program, but an economic program as well, as more women are joining the workforce, as young kids get a better start when they hit grade 1. We've continued to be there to invest for Canadians. And what I respect the business community for is they will continue to advocate for the things that will do better and do well for business owners. And of course we're going to listen to that because we do need a growing economy. But my focus needs to be, and will continue to be, on how we're there to support Canadians in a challenging time and how we create greater growth and opportunities for them in the years to come. And that doesn't come with austerity and cuts, as proposed by many members of the business community, as proposed by many conservative politicians. We continue to believe that strong, confident countries invest in themselves and in their people. Investing in Canadians in responsible ways to support people through these tough times and make sure they can succeed long into the future is how we build a strong and growing Canada, and that is what I will continue to do.
Thank you. Last question.
Abigail Beeman, Global News. In the event of a second Donald Trump presidency, I hear you speak to your experience dealing with that administration, so I'm wondering, what would you do differently a second time around?
What worked best and what works with all American presidents is to demonstrate that what is good for Canada is also good for the United States and vice versa. That the integration of our economies, that the partnerships we have in so many different areas end up being beneficial on both sides of the border. And obviously, the three presidents I've dealt with have all had different perspectives and different approaches on it, but the Canadian approach is the same. It's standing up for Canadian values and Canadian interests, looking for win-win situations, and demonstrating that we can and will continue to work together to create prosperity right across the continent.
Thank you. That concludes.
La réalité, c'est que on a toujours eu une approche consistante.
We've always had a consistent approach with the three different presidents that we have dealt with as a government to demonstrate the interests and values of Canadians, defend our jobs, and also to demonstrate that the integration between the U.S. and Canadian economies is good on both sides of the border, to work together on the big issues of the world, to benefit of great jobs in Canada and U.S., and create prosperity for everyone.
We are listening live. Prime Minister Trudeau speaking this as the Liberal retreat taking place in Montreal, wrapping up after 3 days, talking about a number of different issues. He and other Liberal members were discussing affordability, housing, but also what stood out there, Trudeau talking about the possibility of Donald Trump getting back into the White House, facing questions on what that would look like, the relationship between the U.S. and Canada. Trudeau saying if Trump returns to the White House, he brings a level of uncertainty, also saying not sure what he would bring, but saying that they've made it through the challenges in the past 7 years.